Imagine waking up one day and realizing that almost every belief you have, every choice you made, every dream you chased wasn't fully yours. It was planted, crafted, engineered. Right now, we are about to embark on a journey that will shake the very foundations of what you think you know about your life. Because the truth is, society has been playing a game with us, a game so subtle, so pervasive, that 99% of people will live and die without ever realizing it. But you're here right now, and that means you're ready to see what most never dare to even question.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Have you ever asked yourself, why do I want what I want? Not in a casual, passing way, but really sat with the question, peeled back the layers, and dared to look at what lies beneath? Most people don't. Society counts on that. Because if you ever traced your desires to their roots, you would find something shocking. They were given to you. Crafted by marketing, by education, by culture, by entertainment. Your dreams, your fears, your values, carefully shaped to keep you playing a role in a system that doesn't care about your happiness, only your compliance. I didn't believe it at first either. I thought I was free. I thought I was making my own choices. But then I started noticing patterns. How the same dreams were sold to millions of people at once. How rebellion itself was turned into a brand, a product to be bought and sold. I started asking uncomfortable questions. Why is success almost always portrayed as wealth and fame? Why is beauty defined so narrowly? Why does our education system teach obedience more than critical thinking? And once you start asking these questions, you can't unsee the answers. The greatest scam society ever pulled was convincing you that you were free while building invisible walls around you. Walls made of expectations, norms, and fear. Fear of being different. Fear of being alone. Fear of being labeled a failure. And every time you chose safety over authenticity, those walls grew taller. But what if I told you that those walls are paper thin? That the only thing keeping them standing is your belief in them? When I first tried to step outside those walls, it felt like betrayal. I worried what people would think. I worried about disappointing my family, my friends, my mentors. But then I realized, whose life am I living? Whose dreams am I chasing? And if I spend my whole existence trying to meet the expectations society set for me, who will I be when I finally meet myself at the end? Will I even recognize the person staring back at me? The control starts early. From the moment we are born, we are bombarded with messages about what is good, what is bad, what is possible. We are praised for conformity and punished for deviation. Even our imagination is hijacked. Think about it. As kids, we are asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? But only certain answers are acceptable. Doctor, lawyer, engineer. Not artist, wanderer, philosopher. Why? Because the system needs cogs, not creators, workers, not dreamers, compliant citizens, not rebels. But the most sinister part is how society makes us police ourselves. After a certain point, there's no need for external enforcement. We internalize the rules. We shame ourselves for wanting something different. We silence our own inner voice before anyone else even has to. It's genius, really. A self-sustaining prison where the inmates guard the walls with pride. But what if you stopped playing warden and started playing escape artist? One night, Sitting alone, I asked myself a terrifying question. If I stripped away everything society told me to want, all the awards, all the approval, all the status, what would I actually want? The silence that followed was deafening. I realized I didn't know. I had spent so much time chasing borrowed dreams that I had forgotten to cultivate my own. And that realization was both devastating and liberating. Breaking free isn't easy. It requires a radical act of rebellion, thinking for yourself, questioning everything, even the things you hold most sacred, especially the things you hold most sacred, because often the beliefs that feel most natural to us are the ones that were planted the deepest. They feel like ours because we never thought to question them. But questioning isn't betrayal, it's the beginning of real freedom. Society controls us not just through desires, but through fear. Fear of poverty, fear of loneliness, fear of insignificance. And so we trade our freedom for security. We stay in jobs we hate, relationships that drain us, lives that don't fit us, because the alternative seems too terrifying. But here's the secret. The fear is an illusion too. The real prison isn't external, it's in your mind. And the key to that prison has been in your pocket all along. I remember the moment I decided to live differently. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a vast, dark forest. Behind me was the well-lit, paved road of societal approval. Ahead of me was uncertainty, challenge, danger, but also adventure, also truth. I chose the forest. And yes, it was terrifying. But it was also the first time I felt truly alive. The greatest scam is that society offers you a script and calls it life. But life is not a script. It's a wild, unpredictable, messy, beautiful improvisation. And only you can write your part. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, every time you choose courage over comfort, every time you choose truth over tradition, you tear a hole in the fabric of the scam. You create a space where real life can begin. But how do you start? First, by asking the forbidden questions. What if success isn't about money or fame? What if love isn't about possession or validation? What if happiness isn't about consumption but about connection to yourself, to others, to existence itself? What if everything you've been taught to chase is a distraction from what truly matters? The second step is even harder. You must be willing to be misunderstood, to be judged, to be laughed at. Because when you step off the beaten path, the people still trapped in the scam will try to pull you back. Not because they are evil, but because your freedom reminds them of their own chains. Compassion is necessary, but so is resolve. You will lose some things: comfort, certainty, approval. But you will gain things far more precious: self-respect, inner peace, a life that feels like yours, not a role you were forced to play. Isn't that worth the price? And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop living for society's approval, you become truly magnetic. Because authenticity is rare, it's powerful, it's irresistible. People who have the courage to live their truth light a fire in others. They become beacons, showing that another way is possible. Will you be one of them? The scam is vast, it's layered, it's everywhere. But it's not invincible. Every act of authentic living is a crack in its walls. Every moment of real connection is a blow against its foundation. Every dream born from your own soul, not society's programming, is a revolution. You have more power than you think. You always have. But power without awareness is useless. So I challenge you tonight, sit alone in silence. No phone, no distractions. Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? And listen carefully to the answer. Because in that answer lies the beginning of your liberation. The greatest scam is that society controls your life without you even knowing it. But the greatest truth is that you can take it back. You can wake up. You can walk away. You can live a life so true, so vibrant, so real, that it shakes the very structures that sought to contain you. And it all starts with a single choice: to see, to question, to dare. Once you begin to see the scam, you can't unsee it. It's like waking up in a dream where everyone else is still asleep. You walk through the streets and notice the advertisements screaming at you to buy happiness. You listen to conversations and hear the subtle competition, the desperate need to prove worth. You watch people chase promotions not because they love their work, but because they were taught that higher status equals higher value. And you realize society doesn't just control what we do, it controls what we believe about ourselves. Think about how early it starts. Before you even know who you are assigned labels. Good boy, smart girl, problem child. And these labels stick. They shape the stories you tell about yourself for decades. Society hands you a mirror, but it's a distorted one. It shows you not who you are, but who you are supposed to be. And the tragedy is, most people spend their entire lives trying to match that distorted reflection, never realizing the mirror was warped from the beginning. I started asking myself a brutal question. If I stripped away every label, every role, every expectation, what would be left? At first, the answer was terrifying: almost nothing. An emptiness, a void. But then I realized that this void wasn't something to fear. It was freedom. It was possibility. It was the blank canvas upon which I could finally paint a life that was my own. Society teaches us to fear the void. It teaches us to cling to identities like lifeboats, career titles, relationship statuses, political affiliations. Because if you didn't have these ready-made identities, who would you be? To face that question requires a kind of inner strength that few develop. But those who do are unstoppable. Because once you realize you are not your job, your reputation, or your possessions, you become untouchable by the manipulations of the world. One of the most insidious aspects of the scam is how it weaponizes shame. If you don't conform, you are made to feel defective, lazy, weird, irresponsible. Society doesn't need to use force anymore. It uses shame. It teaches you to punish yourself for stepping out of line. But what if you could unlearn that shame? What if you could walk your own path without apology, even if no one else understood? During this journey, I realized that freedom is not about doing whatever you want. Freedom is about being free from false wants, the desires implanted in you by a system that profits from your dissatisfaction. True freedom is being able to sit quietly with yourself and feel whole. True freedom is choosing your life, not defaulting to it. And that means tearing down not just the external structures of control, but the internal ones too. I remember a night when I sat alone, without distractions, and asked myself, whose dreams am I living? The answer hit me like a punch. I was living dreams sold to me by movies, magazines, advertisements, teachers, even well-meaning parents. Dreams of success, love, happiness, all defined by someone else's standards. And I realized that if I wanted a life that was truly mine, I would have to dream new dreams. Dreams born not from fear or conformity, but from authenticity and courage. But here's the thing. Society makes rebellion look glamorous on the surface, but punishes it deeply in reality. It turns the image of rebellion into a product, edgy clothes, rebellious music, bold slogans, while ensuring that real rebellion, the rebellion of the mind, is crushed. Real rebellion isn't about wearing black or getting tattoos. It's about thinking differently, living differently, loving differently, and that's much harder than buying a shirt with a clever slogan. The scam survives because it offers easy rewards for conformity, comfort, approval, predictability. It's tempting. It's so much easier to follow the script, to chase the pre-approved dreams, to stay within the lines. But every time you choose comfort over authenticity, you trade a piece of your soul for a temporary sense of security. And over time, those pieces add up. Until one day you wake up and wonder where your life went. The question isn't whether society controls you. It does. The question is whether you will take back that control. Whether you will reclaim your right to define success on your own terms. Whether you will dare to live a life that makes sense to you, even if it makes no sense to anyone else. Are you willing to be misunderstood, judged, even rejected, in order to live a life that's real? As I peeled back the layers of conditioning, I found something unexpected, immense compassion. Because once you see how deeply society programs people, you can't hate them for it. They aren't weak. They aren't stupid. They are asleep, just as I was, just as we all are at some point. Awakening isn't about superiority. It's about responsibility. The responsibility to live with open eyes, to love with open hearts, to act with open minds. One of the biggest lies society sells is that fulfillment comes from external achievements. But real fulfillment comes from alignment, when your outer life reflects your inner truth. It's not about how much you have, but how much of yourself you have reclaimed. It's not about how impressive your life looks, but how alive it feels. And no one can give you that feeling. You have to build it yourself, moment by moment, choice by choice. I started rebuilding my life from scratch. I questioned everything, my career, my relationships, my habits, even my thoughts. I asked, is this truly mine? Does this nourish my soul or just inflate my ego? Is this path leading me toward freedom or deeper into the maze? And with every honest answer, I made changes. Difficult changes, painful changes. But changes that brought me closer to a life that felt real. At first, the world pushed back. Friends drifted away. Family members worried. Strangers judged. But over time, new people appeared. People who valued truth over appearances. People who lived from the inside out, not the outside in. And I realized, when you stop playing society's game, you don't lose everything. You lose what wasn't real, and you make space for what is. The scam is clever. because it taps into our deepest fears. The fear of not belonging, the fear of being insignificant, the fear of facing the unknown. But here's the secret. Those fears are gates, not walls. They are thresholds you must cross to find your true life. And on the other side of fear is not emptiness, but vastness, possibility. Freedom beyond anything society ever promised you. If you listen carefully, you can hear a deeper voice inside you. A voice that isn't shouting, isn't selling, isn't persuading. A quiet, steady voice that says you are enough, you are free, you are powerful beyond measure. But you must choose to listen. You must choose to trust it over the louder voices of the world. The greatest scam is invisible because it works through your own mind. It convinces you that the cage is home, that the chains are jewelry, that the script is your own story. But deep down, some part of you knows. Some part of you has always known. And now you have a choice. Keep playing the role you were given, or step off the stage and write your own script. I dare you to choose the second path. I dare you to question everything you think you know about success, love, happiness, even yourself. I dare you to face the fear of the unknown and walk through it anyway. Because on the other side is a life so vivid, so alive, so real, it will make the scripted life you left behind seem like a bad dream. And here's the final realization. Society doesn't win by controlling everyone. It wins by convincing you to control yourself. But you can stop. You can reclaim your mind. You can reclaim your heart. You can reclaim your life. And it all starts with one radical, terrifying, beautiful decision: to wake up. Waking up is not a one-time event. It's a continual process, a commitment you make every day to see more clearly, to choose more consciously, to live more truthfully. There will be days when you'll want to fall back asleep, to slip into the comfort of old patterns, to swim with the current instead of against it. And that's okay. Awakening is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about remembering, again and again, that your life is yours and no one else's. When I chose to wake up, I lost many things. But what I gained was priceless, a relationship with myself that was no longer built on lies. For the first time, I could look in the mirror and not see a collection of labels, roles, and expectations. I saw a person flawed, scared, resilient, alive. I saw someone who was willing to live without guarantees, without a script, without a mask. And that, more than any external success, has been the greatest victory of my life. Society will tell you that you are selfish for choosing yourself, that you are reckless for walking away from the path everyone else is on, that you are naive for believing you can live differently. But here's the truth. You choosing yourself is the most generous act you could ever commit. Because only when you are free can you truly offer something real to the world. Only when you are authentic can you truly love others without agenda or need. Every day, society tries to reclaim its grip on you. Through news, through advertisements, through social media, through casual conversations. It whispers in 1,000 voices, be afraid. Be obedient, be normal. But now you know better. Now you can hear the scam for what it is, a desperate attempt to keep you small, predictable, controllable. And now you have the power to say no. No to dreams that aren't yours. No to fears that aren't real. no to lives that aren't lived fully. And every no to the scam is a yes to something infinitely greater, your own life, your own purpose, your own truth. Can you imagine the strength it takes to live a life that is truly your own? Can you imagine the beauty that would unfold if even a small percentage of us dared to live that way? I began to notice something else once I stepped outside the scam, how much energy I had wasted before. Energy spent pretending, performing, defending a life that wasn't even mine. Once I stopped, that energy returned to me, and with it came creativity, clarity, passion. I started creating not for approval, but for the sheer joy of creation. I started loving not for security, but for the sheer wonder of connection. I started living not for achievement, but for the sheer miracle of existence. Freedom isn't about escaping society entirely. That's impossible. We are social creatures. But freedom is about choosing how deeply you participate. About choosing what games you play, what dreams you chase, what values you embody. Freedom is about standing in the center of the noise and remaining rooted in silence. It's about walking through the illusions without becoming entangled in them. The scam works because it preys on unconsciousness. It thrives on distraction, on busyness, on fear. But when you slow down, when you become still, when you dare to look beneath the surface, the scam loses its power. Awareness is the kryptonite of control. Once you see clearly, you are no longer an easy pawn. You become a player. You become a creator. And here's the secret they don't want you to know. You were born free. You were born wild, creative, fearless. Look at any child before the conditioning sets in. They are explorers, dreamers, lovers of life. That spirit is still inside you. It's not gone. It's just buried beneath years of programming. Awakening is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. I want you to imagine something right now. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no fear of judgment, no need for approval, no obligation to live up to anyone else's expectations. Imagine choosing your path based purely on what sets your soul on fire. Imagine living a life so true, so vibrant, so unapologetic, that it inspires others to question their own cages. What would you do? Who would you be? Most people think the greatest risk is stepping outside the system. But the real risk is staying inside it and never discovering who you could have been. The real tragedy is not failure, but regret. Or regret that you never even tried. Regret that you played it safe and small when you could have lived large and true. Regret that you lived someone else's life instead of your own. I don't want that for you. You deserve better. You deserve a life that feels like a living, breathing extension of your deepest truth. You deserve mornings filled with purpose, days filled with passion, nights filled with peace. You deserve to look back one day and say, I lived. I didn't just exist. I lived. But no one can give you that life. No guru. No teacher. No system. Only you. You are the architect of your freedom. You are the sculptor of your destiny. You are the revolutionary who can overthrow the invisible empire that has ruled your life for too long. And it begins now, with a choice. A simple, terrifying, magnificent choice to wake up, or to question, to reclaim, to live. As I close this reflection, I want to leave you with one final, piercing question, a question that could change everything if you dare to answer it honestly. If you stripped away every expectation, every fear, every borrowed dream, what life would you build? Sit with that. Let it burn away the illusions. Let it ignite the fire, because that fire is the beginning of everything real. The greatest scam society ever pulled was convincing you that you were powerless. But the greatest truth is that you are powerful beyond measure. You are free beyond belief. You are alive beyond fear. Now, the only question that remains is, what will you do with that freedom? The world doesn't need more obedient citizens. It doesn't need more perfect performers. It needs awake, alive, courageous souls who refuse to be controlled, who dare to live their truth, no matter the cost. Will you be one of them? The choice is yours. It always has been.